into the game here. Alright, so we are going into our match against Albright. This is map 3. This is at King's Row, and we start on the attack. John, your first comments on what you're seeing here?
So the way Albright is set up, they're really in the standard hold position here on King's Row. They want to play this kind of green door right here on this hotel, which gives them a whole lot of natural cover. They can peek spam into the choke, and it really makes the offensive team have to work really hard to get into them to get any real progress on the point and to push them back any further. Their Ana's in a weird spot, but it's not a bad spot. It just offers a lot of visibility and a lot of sight lines for her team where they are, and gives Eastern very little access to her as well. She could be playing back in the hallway that she's right near, or underneath the arches right to your left, and either of those would have been really good positions for her as well. But this is kind of the standard hold on Kings. And it's something I think Eastern would benefit from trying at least once, as opposed to holding in the choke, where they occasionally can get aggressed on very quickly.
I think that makes sense.
So,
all right, and then we've got our it's Ash and or where's our DPS? Ash and Reaper, Lucio, Ana, and we've got Cybercat on Zarya, and we've got our Ryan. All right, so let's get started here. Just so we have in the recording, John's going to be kind of calling out a lot of the information here. I'm going to try and drive so that we catch everything.
and if you don't mind, can we go to 0.5 or 0.75 speed, whatever is available, just so that way we're not missing anything, because a lot of things happen pretty quickly.
This is primarily our build. Ana comes. We play Ana when Tyler is in. Usually we play Moira when Cybercat's on support.
So their Reinhardt pushes up really aggressive, which is just to get that early fire strike damage. It gets called out. You see the Pharah in the sky. Zarya builds energy here really quickly. Cybercat builds energy really quickly. And then you can pause right here, actually. Yeah. Right there. You get a really good bio grenade on their Rhine, which denies the healing, which sets up the push. And Eastern does a good job of following through on this. You're going to see the Reaper and the Zarya kind of flank around after this purple goes down, and just burn down the shield and put damage into the Reinhardt to get the initial pick here, which ultimately will lead to the capture. Right, and you get everything's good there. The Reaper goes in for the health pack and finds the Zarya in hotel, pushes her out, and then Ryan gets a really good charge, a short charge on the Zarya. This seals point 1 very quickly off of a really good on a bio grenade. But I want to see, once this is capped, once the second tick goes through, the push needs to start right away. And so you wait until the third cap comes in, and then Rhine, Zarya, and the Lucio push forward, and the Reaper teleports up top. But I really want to see the Rhine, Zarya, and the Ana push forward, and the Lucio can push the cart. The reason being, Ana offers more heals to sustain this little push here to gain as much ground as possible, because ultimately the Reinhardt dies here, and that is going to end up. You're going to have to retake some of this in the next fight. Ryan does a good job of protecting sleeping Zarya. When Zarya wakes up, she gets bubble up right away on the Reinhardt and tries to save him, but just gets burnt down and pushed away. And a retreat is called, which is the right call to back up here a little bit. They're going to want to hold this corner right by the bookstore, which is where Eastern holds as well. It's a pretty standard thing. Could you pause and find Arcee for me?
Sure. He was right in this window before.
Um,
Now he's not.
Arcee should not be here.
Oh my.
Arcee's coming down to look for healing after getting beamed out of the window, but then I believe he sticks around on the low ground.
Let's see where he ends up. So he's. Let me see if I can grab him.
The payload
Alright,
is
so he's
secure.
here.
Move it out.
He's gonna capitalize. That's the coach gun. So that is.
Yep, he uses his coach gun to get up, and he is trying to put in damage into the enemy team. He hasn't used his dynamite yet, which is a huge tool that he has. I'd love to see dynamite into behind the Rhine shield just to get some chip damage in, get closer to that Bob. He gets shot pretty hard. He gets a rocket and then an Anna shot. He comes down and get heals.
So in that call, I think if we take a moment to scroll back.
Nothing's gonna stop.
I'm gonna go back to Arcee again. So when we're here, he's coming down on the Rhine. Now I don't remember if there was a call here on the Rhine, but we're already down our Rhine, so there is a call to retreat. Now, if we're retreating, should our focus be on their tanks, or should our focus really end up turning to the DPS? Like I see him take a look there, try to deal a little bit with the Pharah.
Nothing's gonna stop.
So you're only down one, and so his thought is if we can get a pick, and we can push. And so he's looking for that headshot onto the Pharah. It doesn't come through, but I would have loved to see instead of just backing up right here, I'd love to see the dynamite come in and just get chip damage into that 4 or 5 people there, which is going to tick Bob up really quickly.
This concerns me a little, just the decision to move here. He's at 200 and he's at 10. I understand, like, he poked the window, but, like, that would have been an effective opportunity to throw the dynamite out the window and back up. Like, just to kind of cover himself as he's backing up, because he could have walked backwards through that door and been able to provide just a little bit more damage, as he is now going to be incapacitated and waiting for heals. So that's just something, as we are learning these maps and really thinking about the way in which we function within these maps. A DPS is damage per second, and we desperately need our DPSs to be putting out as much damage as possible. So in that small opportunity, it's just one thing to be thinking about is how can I try to make this retreat, which it really was, be more effective. And that retreat would have been more effective if he was able to throw out a little bit of damage before just kind of turning his back on the window. And turning his back turned into nearly a kill. He lost 190 health.
So I think that's right, but I also think that it took him a while to get up there after point capped, and I would like to see him go up there right away. Elgato teleports up there and then drops down with the Rhine and the Zarya, but that high ground position is a really advantageous one for the long range hit scan. And I think if he would have just gone up there right away, that would have made a big difference in the initial fight to hold that positioning by the bookstore.
Alright, so this is where's our Rhine is on his way back. And we're coming around the corner. We've not actually killed any of their players, but we have been able to force them back a bit.
And so their FAR is on the ground right now. One of the things that I notice a lot, that's a sleep dart out of Farah, and that happens a few times. And you don't want to see that. Because you're essentially throwing your very high skill cooldown at the target you're least likely to get in the moment. This fight is really interesting. I like you make them invest a lot of ultimates for just nano boost. They nano their Zarya, they chunk down the Rhine. You nano the Reinhardt, which forces out the Rocket Barrage and the Deadeye. So you've traded 3 for 1. They still have 3 in the bank, but that's a good ultimate trade. Nano boost is going to be pretty quick building on this comp with the Reinhardt, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I think the main thing that I want to talk about in all of this video is going to be positioning. There are multiple times when people are just out of position, and that's a little bit of everyone, honestly. If we can, when we get to the third point, I want to look at Suspense as he is on the Ana, because the Ana requires some very unique positioning. This is going to be a fight win here for Eastern, I believe. You get a good push. Your Zarya's at high energy. The Shatter comes through and locks a bunch of people up. The charge on the Rhine, and then the grab for the cleanup. It maybe is a little too much ultimate investment, but it's good for the cleanup. They waste Grav and Valkyrie here, so it's not an overinvestment when you look at 2 for 2, one of which was a support ult. But you've captured third point, and you're not pushing forward at all, and that's you've kind of gone a little bit, but you have a high damage DPS in the Reaper, a high damage DPS in the Ashe, and they should already be taking over that high ground by that window where you see the Pharah coming in right now. They should already be up there controlling that position and denying her that space, because that's where she's going to get a lot of her value.
Yeah, and if we had that, then it would be a lot easier to make sure we're not getting this rain down damage. Now, Elgato has just kind of gotten there.
And he's been spotted. Yep. So if you go early, you're not going to get spotted, and then the Pharah comes up there, and you can potentially 2 burst her down with your Reaper Hellfire shotguns, and you're a pickup on this initial third point push. Now you're being very aggressive, and you're not even around the corner yet. The Reinhardt's too aggressive and gets beaten because they have a flanking McCree that you haven't spotted, which allows them an easy cleanup with Shatter, allows their Pharah to come in and farm her ultimate, allows the Zarya to farm as they just kind of run everybody down. So you want to play this corner until the push comes through. Until they're willing to step up to the cart and contest it, you really want to just push the cart for free.
So let's go back a little bit. So maybe a little bit earlier. So we are finishing up our battle back here.
Mm-hmm. So you've just gotten 4 kills, and you now have 10 seconds basically before any respawns come through for the enemy team.
So right here, what should be happening and what does happen. Let's see what we're positioned at. And we're at let's say 405. We've just finished our beat. Right now, everybody is up except for our Rhine, and their entire team is down. Apart from
there's a Mercy, that's roaming around.
Yeah, which they, I believe, were shooting at, so knows that they have retreated.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where, for the next, 15 seconds, we want, our our Rhine should be communicating how long it's going to be for him to get back. Lucio, now having helped heal, should be running back to help him get up to the front.
Which he does.
Yep, our DPSs should be positioning themselves in the upper area near the end here. And we really should only have like one person pushing the payload.
One or two, right? So if you want to, so if you have two that go forward, two that go back, that leaves your Ana and your Zarya. Your Zarya can kind of play near the payload until the Reinhardt comes. Even one person is going to push this in with 10 seconds left, though.
Okay.
This is not so push forward, try and establish your space, look for another pickoff potentially. Don't overinvest, and if you're going to get killed, back off. But it's not going to be the end of the world if they get a pick. There's no way for them to recontest this unless they use their mercy, and that's going to be stupid because then they'll go down a healer and you'll win the next team fight. So right here, pause right here actually. This is where RC and Elgato should be forward. If you look at Cybercat on the Zarya, which is right below you, they're in a good spot. This is a good hold. They're spamming through that doorway to get any kind of chip damage that they can find, trying to build back up to that Graviton Surge. I think they find a few left clicks here to get that little bit of burst into their ultimate. But if you look, Cybercat and Saucepan are both at no grav right now. And so this is a race to grav. Fran has Shatter, and Alex has just used his. So your game-winning ultimates are off the table at this point. Bob and Death Blossom will be okay. You have a saving ultimate with the sound barrier, but you don't have a game-winning ultimate online right now. You don't have a fight-winning ultimate online right now, and so it's going to be a race to see who has a better Shatter, and if Cybercat can get Grav up before Saucepan. So what Cybercat is doing and just spamming damage is very good because you're going to help build that up again, especially because Cybercat, I believe, is pretty charged right now because they've been using Bubble very efficiently.
So we're now at 10 seconds since we finished our finished our bout, getting to about 15 here. Elgato has reached height, but not necessarily worked towards our position over here, where he could have teleported potentially to get up and ahead. Now, there would have been a risk if he was up on this roof at this point, but he could have been up in this window across the way that I'm looking at. And now we are seeing, I think Elgato is now teleporting up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and so they find him out, and there's a McCree on the flank here, and he gets shot at. And Elgato needs to call out that the McCree is here, because ultimately, this McCree is going to kill the Rhine. I don't know if he gets the final blow, but he is putting in flank damage as they're being aggressive on this Rhine Zarya. The Rhine was just asleep. But now the McCree is going to step forward and do big damage into the Reinhardt, which will open up for the Shatter here. Right, so here comes the McCree. He's going to see that Reinhardt's being very aggressive and doesn't have his shield facing him, and he's just going to get free damage. He gets 2 shots, I believe, maybe a third. But then the Reinhardt's just going to swing into him and take the kill, and it's going to get followed by Shatter as Eastern is trying to exit. If the call out of where McCree is happens, then your Reinhardt knows he's there, and you can play a little bit safer behind the cart and just get that free push until they choose to engage.
Where this is a team fight, like this is something that I notice often in team fights that I want to mention here, is that so we've got our aggressive push forward We have one good height position. RC's he's got an angle, but if they go around that corner, Mihao has no shot on anyone of their team. So the idea that we're going to try to push the payload forward on this corner, we really have to be making sure that our DPSs are going to be able to do the damage. And I think what ends up happening is you'll see this as Ryan pushes in and as Zarya push in, they will effectively push in too far. And this is right what you were talking about in regards to positioning.
Right. So this already is too far.
Yeah.
Because they've given up this angle, and they are now turned almost parallel or perpendicular to this. This is too much. They've overcommitted to this fight. They have the McCrees behind them and getting free shots, and the healers can't see them. If we can actually go back and look at suspense, this is a positioning thing as well that we'll talk about in this area. So initially, I think this is really good positioning. If you can't get the high ground, this where RC is right now is a very good high ground position, or above ground to just have a different angle to get the long sight lines. He should be able to see the McCree from where he is, and so that's a duel you want him taking because that should occupy the McCree. Even if he doesn't get the kill, if McCree's focused on the long range battle with RC, then he's not focused on trying to get chip damage on the Reinhardt.
And that's again, as you said, that turn. All right, now what about Suspense here?
So in a minute, Suspense is going to lose sight of his healers. If you can look at, is there a way we can go to his perspective? So he has no sight lines because he jumps down off of this. He needs to stay on that ledge, and he ends up shooting the payload instead of healing his Reinhardt, and then nanoing players that weren't or using his nade on players that were not damaged. And then the Shatter's going to come through, and instead of healing up the Shatter with the nade, he has already spent it. He uses sleep on the Reinhardt, which is good. Ultimately, though, he's going to get caught out here by the Pharah because he's not in a good position for Ana. Ana needs to be played in almost total cover. The fewer angles that you can get shot from as Ana, the better you are going to be. And so that little hallway to the right here, as long as you maintain sight on your tanks, there's so much cover here that you can hide up behind and poke out from behind and get good sight lines on this first part of third.
Yeah, you got a lot of looking right here, a lot you can see, and again, the payload was back here.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was here, he had better angles. As it pushed forward, you'd probably have to get here to get your angles for your support, and then.
And even this behind this box right here is not a bad angle.
Because you're gonna have your team. Yeah, I mean you got to pay attention to what's behind you. But.
Right. But the Ana needs to be played further back, so that way she has sight lines, but is not in. The goal for Ana is to never really be to be threatened unless they're going to dive you hard or push you with. Well, on this team, it's going to be the Pharah pushing you. In which case, you kind of want to be near RC, so that way RC can take that duel and try and scare off the Pharah. So here we're coming up. You can Saucepan is beating Cyber to the Grav. They just want to fight. That makes sense. The Reinhardt gets chunked down here really hard. The Bob comes through and gets this knockup, and there's not really a whole lot of capitalization. I think Bob is an overinvestment in this fight, unless you already have Elgato in the back line. So after the knockup comes through, you can use the Death Blossom.
that's something we can really start working on and discussing is with our comp. Now that we're being a little bit more consistent with keeping with the comp that we have, is talking about what combos do we have in this comp, and in what situations should we be using them.
So also, if you want to click pause, go back about 5 seconds, and then I'll from this angle, and then I will. There's a pause that I wanna look at. So they take the aggression and just they kite it back. They get out of Bob's line of sight. Alex puts up his shield right here and is guarding no one. And instead, his shield should be down and recovering. Right? So he's looking through this doorway, but they're just kiting backwards. They're not doing anything. His shield is at low health. He should just keep that down.
Okay.
The McCree is going to roll.
Down, he would have been able to gain health on it.
Yeah, so when your shield is not up, you are recharging it. So if you just keep it down, it's going to get another 100 to 200 charge. So that way it can take another 100 to 200 damage. At the same time, Cybercat's going to push forward aggressively, and their McCree is going to get a stun and a fan the hammer on the Zarya, which I don't believe leads to a kill. But then you are also going to get this Pharah ult in the back line. The first person it kills is the Ana, who is not supposed to be here. The Ana should still be further back, hiding in hallways and behind boxes, and not right behind the payload where Pharah is roaming around.
So this is a one of the most perfect moments of what not to do.
There are two of them, I would say, for the Ana. This is one of them, and there is another one that happens a little bit later. But also, the Zarya is out of position here because she is so far ahead of her Rhine, and I think that's why the Ana has pushed forward, is to try and heal the Zarya and the Rhine, who are too far forward. If they just stay back, they can get free push on this cart, and their healers don't need to overcommit, and then their healers can get time to rotate into a new position and set up for the next part of this.
That makes sense. All right, so we'll keep moving forward here. This is, I believe, a team wipe.
It's a quick one.
Cyber's pretty much down. Rhine, no shield anymore, so he's gonna get cleared out. Has no ability to protect.
So yeah, this is going to be a cleanup. I don't like this focus from Cybercat, especially if you're trying to build grav. Just shoot someone on the ground and get guaranteed damage. And if you look, this grab fight is now really close again. It's 75 to 71, and Alex is winning in Shatter, even though that's the way it should go. He's like, the Shatter game is staying pretty simple. Elgato manages to get out, which is great, because staying alive is so crucial. But their cleanup comes through, and then they back off. They don't over pursue here, which is really good.
As you said, and I want to state this just as a focal point, Elgato knows that I've mentioned this a few times, but this is, let's go back. All right.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Let me show you how it's done.
I'm just looking for a couple of points here. All right, let's say 315.
Well, it's gonna you get back up to 520.
So we're back up to 520. So at 520, this is our try to escape. Now at 315.
So in this, there's a fight where they get grabbed, and this is where he uses his ultimate. I do want to talk about this fight though. If we can back up another 20 or so seconds before this happens. So your Reaper just got out. They're retreating. They're backing up. They're getting heals. They got a Zarya who was trapped on the corner. But now you have Grav into their Grav. You're going to have Shatter into their Shatter. You have Beat. They have Deadeye, and you have Death Blossom. So this is an all in all pretty even fight. It's four ultimates against four ultimates, and all things considered. I'm sorry, it's 4 against 5 because you're coming up on your tank ultimates as well, and this is a weird fight, and I want to talk about why this is weird. They show like they're going to hold this corner aggressively, but then as the pressure comes through, they're going to pull back to behind the cart. And they're going to use this cart as more cover. The Zarya steps around, and Alex tries to shatter. It doesn't come through. They play behind the cart. Their Ana gets a really great nade, and then their Zarya steps around and uses Grav on the corner here. And then Eastern clicks Q. Skipot tries to use his beat to save everyone, but gets killed before it can go down. Elgato does the same with his Death Blossom. He's switching heroes. That's not the worst. But that's 3 ultimates into their 1 and into their 2, and it was a loss. I don't like, after the Reinhardt goes down, I don't like the beat coming through. I understand why Elgato used the Reaper ultimate, especially if he's going to switch. But you really do want to see that come out earlier, even if it's just on one target. We talked a whole lot about him going up there earlier in the fight to take that high ground position. That way, when the Pharah comes through, if he goes up there and gets the 1 kill with that, that changes the course of the game. I think what the team as a whole needs to understand is that sometimes, like a one person, like getting one person in the ultimate is higher value than using it or waiting to try and use it on 6 people, because that 1 kill can change the look of the game. And so now Cyber has Graviton, and this should be an uncontested Grav. You just want to walk in and grab them. They have some counterplay with the Pharah ultimate, but there's no reason why this shouldn't just be a go in, grab, get some cleanup. And he ends up holding on to it for quite some time, and ends up kind of just chucking it in at not a great moment. So here's a great opportunity for a one-person grab to take their Reinhardt out of the fight. You get separation, grab him right here, and just be done with him. The charge comes in and sets up their Rhine instead for a huge shatter in the back line, and then Pharah ultimate with a gigantic cleanup. This is a little bit of a waste of the Pharah ult, but that's lucky for EU. And they just come through and get easy cleanup on everyone here. So they're talking about holding this corner now that they've pushed cart back. They want to hold. They just want to hold this corner. It's a very aggressive hold, but they have that extra cover with the cart again. They're holding kind of a back corner. Skipot goes for the environmental kills, which pulls him away from the team. This is a Lucio out of position. It's so here's the grab from Cyber, and it's just kind of chucked in. No one's around. There's no follow up. And Pharah gets a great boop into the well because they were playing a better position. And there's nothing you can do about that, unfortunately. And so they're going to get easy cleanup now because you're down a Reinhardt. But if the grav had been earlier in the fight, or earlier in the, if it would have been last fight, you would have manufactured a fight win versus throwing it away kind of for free. RC gets a good exit kill here, which is nice. Because that's going to be a respawn. They're going to have to back up and not push. And this is going to be the big fight that Eastern wins, but it is very sloppy. It is not a very clean fight win. So Bob comes in and gets a nice off angle. So Reinhardt has to adjust his shield, which is good. Alex gets the nice fire strike to build his ultimate. He's at 90 now. Bob gets booped back, but not into the well, which is what they were trying to do, which is great because now you have free push basically up to this corner.
60 seconds remaining.
I don't know why Alex is in that room. I wish he would just stay in front. Skipot should not be on top of the cart. He should go challenge that high ground against that Pharah and boop her off. And pause. Can we go back 10 seconds? Pause. And then we want to find the Ana again.
60 seconds remaining.
Okay. Ana is in the front line. This is a major out of position, and their McCree actually is a streamer on Twitch, and he makes this call out, and he says their healers are out of position. And he gets a lucky sleep onto the McCree in the back line who made that call. But the Ana should not have been there. And it's very lucky that this was not punished. It's really hard to heal when you're the one in front. When you have to be healing everyone else, you're in the most danger possible. Beat here to keep everyone up. The nano comes through. Big. Okay, go ahead and pause for me here. The big tire comes through, and this is kind of the play that we're all talking about. Their McCree uses Deadeye and is going to get a 4K, and then the Reinhardt is going to get chunked down as well because he charges instead of keeping his shield up. But can we go to their McCree's perspective? You're going to see that. So McCree's going to get 4 kills, but 2 of them are people who are out of position. So can we slow down to the 0.25? And I'm gonna ask to pause at some point soon here after this tire goes off. Okay, so here's the Deadeye. Shield comes up. Pause right there. Cybercat is jumping over top of the payload, and Skipot is outside of the Rhine shield. So even if Alex keeps his shield up here, you have 2 players who are going to be out of position and still die here. Arguably, you still have a fair fight if that happens. But if nobody dies here, you have a 6v3. So the shield should have stayed up, but also the Zarya and the Lucio need to be behind the shield, and the charge needs to not come through. And this is a very different ending to this game if that's the case. They have a grab that you're going to have to contend with, but it's not the end of the world. This is a feels bad, man. This is something that you just have to shake off. We've all made this mistake. But just keep the shield up. But the rest of the team needs to stay behind the shield too. Alex got a lot of flack for that one, but it wasn't all his fault. There were still 2 people who would have died anyways. Archie gets an exit kill, but it doesn't matter because there's 10 seconds left or 20 seconds left, and they're not going to be able to touch because Albright has Grav.
Team kill.
Do you want to? Oh,
I'm sorry about that.
there was another. Did you not want to talk about the defense or the offense or the defense, whatever it was?
We are going to call that. I'm just in a situation where I need to. I'm tight on time.
No worries.
So, obviously, I'd like to take another look at the other thing, but for now, that's going to be all that we can cover. I think the major points that we wanted to cover are there in regards to our offense. Our offense is actually generally our strength on these two-sided maps. So I'm sure positioning is for certain something that we need to take a look at on the defensive side as well. Thanks, John, for taking some time to look at this with us.
Yeah, no problem.